Hey guys, Zen here, and today I actually wanted to talk about the current state of Rainbow Six Siege. There has been a lot of discussion online about where the game is right now, what it used to be compared to what it is right now, and where it's headed in the future. And so in this video, I wanted to give you guys my perspective on that and really go in depth with all the different aspects of this game, from Pro League to the current meta. There's a lot to discuss, so this might be a little bit of a longer video, so make sure you guys subscribe with your notifications so you know exactly when there is new content here on the channel. Now, to start this conversation off, I wanted to talk about the Pro League. This is an absolutely essential part of the game, and it is something that really shepherds the rest of the experience. And there are a lot of players out there that really don't agree with some of the decisions that are made based on the Pro League. I feel like right now is a really good time to bring that up because we really just went through some changes that not a lot of people agree with. For instance, we went through the change to IQ where she lost her grenades and she also had her gadget nerfed just a little bit. Now, if you were somebody that was in the Pro League, you were a pro player, or even somebody that was in those really high ranks like a diamond player, there are a lot of aspects to this change that you can understand. IQ is a very powerful operator in those ranks, and so Ubisoft went ahead and nerfed her across the board. Now, if you ask anyone that's lower than a Plat 2 in the ranked playlist, they'll tell you that IQ is pretty much never picked. She's almost never played, and when she was actually nerfed across the board, it was almost looked at like a meme, and people just genuinely didn't understand why this was happening. But again, everyone in the Pro League circuit knew that this was something that needed to happen. Now, another more controversial operator that this actually happened to was Lion. Now, when Lion was first released, he had a 100% pick rate in the Pro League, which basically meant that the pros felt as though if you did not have a Lion on your team, you were not being competitive. So, of course, Ubisoft nerfed him, and they nerfed him extremely hard. They took away a scan, they increased the duration of cooldown between the scans, and they also decreased the amount of time that the scans were actually active. So Lion took a really big hit, and I think we can all say that we're at the point with this operator where he's not being used that much. I mean, he's still competitive, he's still a part of the meta, but he is not being used nearly as much as he was. And most all of this is because of the influence from the Pro League. So I really want to know how you guys feel about this particular subject, and I'm willing to make another video if necessary, but do you think that the Pro League dictates too much when it comes to game balance, the buffs and nerfs of the operators, and really everything that encompasses that subject? Just let me know how you feel about it in a comment down below. Now, attached to the Pro League, there is one feature that is currently exclusive to that realm, which is pick and ban. Now, there is a lot of opinions on this matter as well, but in general, I think the pick and ban system is an excellent system that is really good for this game and also adds tons of layers of depth to this game. Now, where my problem lies and where I think a lot of people may find issue is by bringing the pick and ban system over to ranked. Now, in the past, I have said that the pick and ban system should stay out of ranked. It's something that I think is more limiting, but after some serious time and watching it in the Pro League and really seeing everything that encompasses this feature, it's something that I can see benefiting the ranked playlist and benefiting the game as a whole. And the main reason for that is because you never want things to get too stagnant. Right now, there are certain objectives that are played a specific way. They're played this way all the way down from copper all the way up to diamond, and those kinds of metas will never change unless, of course, new operators are introduced, which takes a very long time. But in the meantime, if you want to have a new meta, you want to have something switch and change on the fly, pick and ban is a huge way to add that layer of gameplay. For instance, if you think about an objective like Basement in Oregon, there is almost always a Mira set up down there facing the blue area and the construction site, and also one that watches over the hatch and the main stairs. Now, if you were to have this pick and ban system in the ranked playlist and you were to ban an operator like Twitch, well, at that point, Mira has absolutely no counter, no hard counter, and it's very difficult to deal with her. So this would force the attacking team into picking an operator that would have to deal with that Mira or find some other strategy or some other way to attack that basement without heavily relying on that Twitch. And vice versa. If you know that they're playing Mira down there or that they're prone to playing Mira down there, ban Mira. And now that entire objective needs to be played and needs to be set up differently by the defending team. And so pick and ban is something that I think is really interesting. I think Ubisoft still has some tweaks and some things that need to be made to the system, but I think it's really the only way to constantly switch up the meta and keep things feeling fresh and new in places where they might be getting a little stagnant. Now, I do realize that there is one major flaw with this system in bringing it to the general population, and that's mainly to do with when new operators are released. With a system like pick and ban in place, when the new operators do come out, you'll have this issue where if there's a player that doesn't want you to try them out or doesn't want to have to face against them, you might have this period of as long as a few weeks where the new operator just keeps getting banned and nobody gets the chance to really understand them, push them into the meta, and really focus on what makes this operator good and balanced or not. And I think pick and ban is very limiting in that way. We can apply this to our current meta. With Operation Grim Sky release, if we had a system like pick and ban in place, you would probably never see Clash or Maverick, because generally in the community, a lot of people think these operators are overpowered, and in a full lobby of 10 people that are picking and choosing what operators can and cannot be played, I would assume that Clash and Maverick would probably be the #1 focus targets for operators to be banned at this stage in the game. So it is an unfortunate thing, but the reality is that this would be something that Ubisoft would have to combat early on to introduce it to the general population. Otherwise, when new operators come out or things change and people aren't super accustomed to the changes yet, it'll just become one of the most limiting experiences and probably one of the worst things that could really happen to this game in the long run. But now we can switch things up and quickly talk about the current meta. This is a subject that you have to discuss when you're talking about the state of the game, because it's probably one of the most prominent things in the game currently. So the meta is pretty much the operators that are most effective, most useful, and are being picked the most throughout the game. But I actually wanted to break it down and talk about 4 operators specifically, and these operators are ones that I consider to have had a lot of change or a lot of influence in the meta since the release of Operation Grim Sky. And those 4 operators are Clash, Maverick, Hibana, and Bandit. So let's start this off with Clash. Now, this was an operator that shook a lot of feathers when she was first introduced. She was the first ever defensive shield operator, and with that comes a real balancing challenge. In the TTS, before the actual official release of Grim Sky, everyone was pretty much in agreement that Clash was a little too strong. The taser could electrocute you from really far away, it actually does damage and can down you, and on top of that, she can swap weapons extremely quickly. So in general, everybody felt as though Clash was a little too strong. So recently, Ubisoft actually nerfed her, where now she has a little bit more time between her being able to switch her shield to her weapon, and there's also a little bit of a change in the interaction from the attacker side, where they can now get back to full speed in a shorter period of time. So it's not drastic, nothing has really changed fundamentally about the operator, but it is still a nerf nonetheless. And so I think with these nerfs, Clash is going to feel a lot better, and I think she'll be a little more balanced overall. Then there's Maverick, the other operator that was introduced with Operation Grim Sky. Now, the community as a whole has pretty much been calling for a Maverick nerf since the beginning, and I think a lot of that has to do with the silence of the blowtorch. When there's a lot going on the objective, it's really difficult to notice when a Maverick just opens up a really small hole somewhere on an opposing wall and is able to get off a few headshots, and it can actually be really frustrating when you have no idea that this is happening. When Thermite or Hibana are letting off their charges, everyone in the surrounding area knows about it. You hear them getting ready to set up, and then you hear them going off. It's a big loud explosion for the most part. But with Maverick, he simply turns on the gas of the blowtorch, and you really don't hear anything unless there is nothing but blanket silence across the objective, which is pretty rare in most cases. And you definitely don't know that this is happening if you're someone like Echo, where you're stuck in your drone or you're trying to get intel of some kind, and Maverick just comes in and gets you that way. So I think right now a lot of people are really frustrated with this operator, and I'm not really sure what can be done about it. So let me know, what would you do to either nerf or balance Maverick? Would you increase the audio of the blowtorch? Would you nerf his guns? Would you change him from 3-speed to 2-speed? Let me know your thoughts down below. Next up, Hibana. Now, I chose to talk about Hibana because she actually did see a lot of change over this season. First up, the interaction between her gadget and the hatches. No longer does one single pellet open up the entire hatch, which on objectives like Oregon leading into the basement, again, that is a big change. You have some operators sometimes that sit there and wait for Hibana to open up that hatch or attempt to and shoot out her pellets, which won't open the entire hatch anymore. anymore. She also got the nerf to the Bearing 9, which I think actually really heavily affected this operator because most people ran the Bearing 9 with this operator and it was pretty much baked into the meta. Now both of those things are really changed and Hibana is left feeling a little bit underwhelming. You also have the introduction of Maverick, who is another hard breacher and does it a lot quieter and can also make the same kind of holes that Hibana does by making murder windows with his blowtorch. So with an operator like Hibana, which used to be one of the most popular picks on attack, you're starting to see the meta really switch and turn on its head and put her in a place that isn't as popular and isn't as frequently picked as she used to be. Now Hibana isn't the only operator affected in this kind of way. Bandit, the last operator that I wanted to discuss, has actually really been a tough sell recently. Going back to the nerf where he lost a barbed wire was a really big hit in my opinion, because being able to set up that barbed wire with one of his batteries is obviously a great way to prevent drones and hurt some attackers that aren't really paying attention to it or dealing with it. But then moving forward, when you introduced Maverick, it really hurt Bandit because the Bandit trick now is almost useless. If you have a Maverick on the attacking team, all he has to do is cut out a small hole at the bottom, which takes him less than 5 seconds to do, and now Bandit cannot trick. I think of Chalet in this instance in the main garage downstairs in the basement. It has always been meta to bring a Bandit, bring a Jaeger, and allow Bandit to use the Bandit trick to not allow either Thermite or Hibana to come in through that garage. Now with Maverick as a part of the meta, I'm almost never seeing Bandit down there, and the garage gets opened almost every single round, and it's honestly becoming one of the hardest objectives to actually defend. So that's another example of an operator who used to be super popular and almost considered a must pick being brought down really heavily and really far in the meta that has really switched up a lot of the objective sites. So again guys, those are just 4 of the operators that I wanted to talk about when it comes to the meta, but there are a ton more. So if there's any operators that you think have really changed or really been adjusted or balanced since the introduction of Operation Grimsky and where they're at in the current state of Rainbow Six Siege, definitely let me know everything down below. But the last thing that I wanted to discuss when you talk about the current state of Rainbow Six Siege is the future and where we're headed. At this time, I think generally speaking, the game is healthy. I know a lot of people have been calling out for an Operation Health 2.0 kind of thing where we take a break from new content and really focus on the problems that the game has, but I don't really think we need to go that far, and definitely not at this stage in the game. Ubisoft has been doing a lot to clean up the glitches and bugs and a lot of the errors that have been happening. Two-step verification is going to become a requirement for ranked very soon here, and they've been doing an entire campaign to raise awareness for turning it on so that you can actually play ranked and continue to enjoy it on PC. And so there's a lot that's happening in the back end of the game that I think is only going to keep the game healthy and only going to keep the game stable long term. Beyond that, I'm hoping year 4 kicks off with a big event. I'm hoping we see something along the lines of Outbreak like we saw in the early half of this year. It was such a unique and different experience for Rainbow Six Siege that I think Ubisoft should definitely continue to develop on top of. And even though we know it's confirmed that Outbreak itself isn't coming back, I would love to see a new event or some sort of lore or story or something happen to really excite people for the 4th year of Rainbow Six Siege. We know we're always going to get 2 new operators every single season, a new map or a map buff. Those kinds of things are pretty much fundamental at this time, but I want to see things shake up with year 4 and moving on even further, because I think this game really has everything it needs to be the most popular and the most played game in the world. And the reason I say that and feel so passionately about that is because the one true thing that we're all searching for with Rainbow Six Siege is knowledge. If you play this game for more than say 10 hours a week, then you're already in that grind, you're already in that loop, and you're looking for that next angle to hold, that next interaction between operators that you never knew about, that new operator that brings an entire new dynamic to the game, kind of like Mira or even Clash. These are huge opportunities for us to learn more about the game and ultimately get better, which I think is everyone's goal that plays this game, even outside of ranking up or getting renown or any of those things. All of us that play Rainbow Six Siege and enjoy this game and consider it our main game, we're all looking for more knowledge. So in conclusion, I think Rainbow Six Siege is in the state of change. This game is not what it used to be, and I think where it's headed is in a much bigger and broader scope than it was ever even supposed to be. So if you're someone who's been playing this game since the alpha and you see where the game is at now and you're not happy with it, it's because the game has changed. changed, it's innovated, it's gone from what it was supposed to be, that quick switch from Rainbow Six Patriots over to this multiplayer only Siege-like experience that we have today. And sure, there's still a lot of things that the developers need to work on, there's always going to be bugs and fixes that need to happen, but I think Siege is in the best place it's ever been to set itself up for a bright future. And let's not forget, guys, we're still looking at over 50 new operators still to be introduced to this game and over 6 more years of content, if what Ubisoft has said is to be true. But that is everything, guys. That is the state of Rainbow Six Siege in 2018. But of course, I want to hear from you. What do you think of Rainbow Six Siege in its current state? What do you think of all the operators? What are you looking forward to in the future? Let me know everything in a comment down below. If you did enjoy this video, please drop a like and subscribe with notifications if you're new. With that being said, it's been Zen. I'm out.